Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming here today. This is our second program. Our first program was very successful, and this will air on our cable channel for the benefit of the residents of Huntington. Our first program, about a month and a half ago, was Job Search Secrets. This is our second program, Show Me the Money. And we're going to be talking about a variety of programs, and it's going to be focusing on conventional bank products. There's going to be government contracts, there's going to be minority loan programs, and there's also going to be a variety of microloan programs. I want to thank several organizations for their input and their help in this program, notably the Huntington Chamber of Commerce, the Melville Chamber of Commerce, the Long Island Development Corporation, the Huntington Kiwanis, and Black Women Enterprises. Now we're going to start off our program here with a representative who will talk to us about conventional bank products. And he's from TD Bank, and the gentleman's name is Scott Horowitz. Scott?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Horowitz. I'm a Small Business Relationship Manager for TD Bank. Just want to first thank Councilman and Roz Goldmacher for the invite this morning. I'm going to cover traditional bank products when you're looking for financing, whether you're an existing business or if you're a startup business looking to open a business. I'm going to discuss those products. The best thing to do when you approach a bank for traditional bank financing is to know your business. To know your industry, because the best thing that the bank wants to hear is a solid understanding from you of your business. If you're an existing business, we want to hear your past experience, any challenges you've had, any successes you've had, of course. Obviously, the last couple of years, the economy's been very tough on certain industries, most industries. So the way you got through those challenges and your track of where you see your business going in the future, the bank will utilize all that information in being able to make a loan decision. You might approach a bank for any type of financing, whether it be working capital line of credit to help manage your cash flow and receivables. Could be a term loan if you're looking to make a capital purchase for long-term financing. Could be equipment leasing if you're looking to purchase a building. Any of those would fall into traditional bank financing products that a bank can offer. So the main things that a bank will look at, and I like to simplify this thing when I meet with my clients, is we're going to take a look at the cash flow of your business. So the cash flow is basically the income that your business generates that is available for use for additional capital. Typically, when a business goes out to get capital, they're either going to go and get equity financing or debt financing. Equity being most likely a friend or relative, parents, sibling that is willing to, that believes in you, is willing to give you some money to get your business going. When you come to a bank, it's really debt financing. So we're going to look at the cash flow available if you're coming in to, say, get a line of credit to help manage your receivables or for some expansion. We're going to want to make sure that your business can support that payment. We don't want to give you a loan for something that you can't afford to pay back. So that's one of the most important factors. Another important factor is collateral. When you go to a bank, the bank is not only looking to give the small business owner financing, but from the bank's perspective needs to mitigate our risk. So we look for collateral, and that collateral could mean anything from your receivables for money that's actually owed to you, to business assets if you have equipment, for example, that the business has that's of value, or it could be hard collateral, which is typically cash, securities, or real estate. If you own your own home or a building that you were willing to use in order to get this financing. So the bank is going to take that collateral just in case your business should not be able to repay that loan. The bank would have that second source of repayment to help mitigate the risk. One of the last most important factors is credit. Your personal credit, it plays a big role. Business credit that your business has established, if your business has established any credit. All all play an important role in obtaining financing from a traditional bank. So when I started off, I'd said that the best thing to do is to know your business. What I mean by that is, if you're an existing business and you have financials, statements to provide to the bank, and this is not a startup situation, we're going to want you to be able to answer any significant questions that we may see on those statements. If you had a big increase in sales or a big decrease in sales, what attributed to those increase in sales? If your cost of goods went up, what happened in your marketplace that caused your costs to go up where your sales may have run flat? Obviously, everyone knows in the economy right now, it's hard for you to raise prices on your customers when your vendors are raising prices on you, and that's something difficult to deal with. So having a solid understanding of that and a way to try and help manage that will help the bank to make a decision. I've never met a small business owner that's not passionate about their business. The bank needs to see that passion from you and really get a solid understanding. We're not in your business every day, so we're much more limited to just the numbers on the paper, but we want a solid understanding from you and a background story that can help us, give us some background to the numbers that we're seeing on paper, because obviously our decision isn't solely just based on financial numbers. We need to get as much information from you as the business owner as possible. You want to make sure that the financing that you're requesting matches your need. If you're looking to purchase equipment that is going to be used for a long period of time, it's not just a short-term use, you don't want to come to a bank and ask for a short-term line of credit. A line of credit typically the bank issues is for managing your receivables. So if you're billing out today but you're not getting paid for 30, 60, 90 days, that's what a line of credit is typically used for. Depending on the bank product, it may just be an interest-only payment, which helps you because it lowers your monthly cost. But if you're looking for long-term financing, that's not the product that's right for you. So you want to have a good idea of what your needs are going into the conversation. If you don't know what the product is that's right for your needs, the banker that you're meeting with can certainly discuss that with you and make sure that you're talking about the right thing. And you want to make sure that you're meeting with a bank that can help service your needs. Certain banks may shy away from certain industries, so you want to make sure that the banker that's in front of you, that you're not wasting either of your times and that they actually can assist in your industry. The bank has, and what I've already said kind of falls into this, but traditional banks like to refer to the different criteria that we look at as the 5 C's of credit. You're going to be looking at character, which is you as an individual and as a business owner, and what makes you successful as a person. That can comprise what your experience in the industry is. If you're looking to start into a field where you're opening a business that you have never owned your own business before, well, if you're opening a hair salon and you've never done hair before, what's going to make you a successful hair salon owner? That type of questioning that would fall into character. Collateral, I discussed already. Capacity is basically the cash flow and your ability to repay the loan, whether it's coming from your business revenue or if it's a startup, what your personal capital available is. Conditions, what are the conditions in your business that will give you the ability to repay this loan? Whether it's existing revenue, whether you're coming to us for a loan to help you expand your business, what are the future revenue streams and how are you going to get to that point? And the last one is capital, which I already kind of touched on, is both your business capital, what's available for collateral, what's available for infusion into your business. And the bank basically uses these to help make a credit decision. And that's why I said earlier, when you have a good understanding of your business and the way your industry works, that you can provide insight to the bank and for us to get to a comfort level of issuing you a loan. That is one of the most helpful things that I find when meeting with small business owners, because I don't know your business as well as you do, so getting that background information is certainly helpful. I won't touch too much on startups because I know some of the other speakers will talk to that. I know Roz from the Long Island Development Center will be able to talk in more depth on that, so I won't go through that part of the presentation. Hopefully this gave you some insight into what banks look for and the types of things that you would approach a bank for. I don't know if we're going to do Q&A now or you want to wait till the end.
Scott, we're going to be doing Q&A after it. I just wanted to thank you for your input here and
Sure.
Just confirm that you're really saying that three important elements for the bank's decision have to do with, one, the cash flow, number two, the collateral, and number three, the credit history. Would that be correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay. I'd like to turn to our next speaker, Gina Slater-Parker, who handles the Minority Women's Business Enterprise Program, along with the Women's Business Enterprise Certification and Government Contracts.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gina Hill Slater-Parker, and I guess what would be most appropriate is to talk about how to increase business. I mean, we have other people on this panel that are going to talk about accessing capital and identifying funding and resources, but for most small business owners, whether you're a startup or an existing business trying to survive in this current economic climate, you're really looking how to increase your bottom line, how to increase sales. Predominantly here on Long Island, we've been a service-oriented industry. I know we have some other kinds of businesses present, but when you think of that, service-oriented industries usually are more in the private sector, and they don't do too much with the public sector. But right now, everyone in this room needs to know that the public sector or government agencies, the municipalities, state and federal government agencies, are really the biggest game in town. They are your biggest potential client if they're not already your client right now. I encourage everyone in this room, whether they're black, white, a man, or a woman, to get registered to do business with their local government, their state government, and their federal government. And you're saying, why should I do that? Because that's where the opportunities are. That's where the opportunities are. You would like to register and get on those bid lists. You would like to register if you're service-oriented on the RFPs and the proposals. If you're a woman-owned business, or if you're a minority-owned business, then I also encourage you to get certified. Get certified first and foremost with New York State, specifically Empire State Development. Once you're certified with Empire State Development, there's a lot of other agencies that have reciprocity or will recognize it, and it will help fast-track your certifications with the local municipalities, Suffolk County, Nassau County, and different federal agencies. It is extremely important that you leverage your sales by going to take a serious look at the public sector and what they have to offer. At the end of the program, when Roz opens it up to Q&A, I look forward to your questions. I don't want to continue to talk and belabor this, but I have a lot more information to offer, but I would really like to speak to you and what your specific needs are. Thank you.
Gina, thank you for those tips and recommendations. I mean, they're really, really cut to the chase, and you come to the bottom line. I want to thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We'll next turn to our next panelist, who is with the Suffolk County Industrial Development Agency, who has a lot of things going on. There's a lot of positive activity and new programs being launched by the Suffolk County IDA, and I'd like to introduce Steve Rossetti.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm proud to say that I'm a 17-year member of this community. We really love the Huntington area, and we have a lot invested here, as you all do also. I've been a volunteer board member and a secretary of the Industrial Development Agency and the Local Economic Development Corp of Suffolk County now since 2006. We are a 7-member board, and we're appointed by the Suffolk County Legislature and serve at the pleasure of the legislature and the Suffolk County Executive, Steve Bellone. Our purpose is to promote economic development. Our mission is to retain and grow jobs. How do we do that? The Suffolk County Industrial Development Agency offers 6 types of financial assistance to companies. These are for existing companies, whether you're here locally or you're coming in from outside of the area. The first is tax-exempt bonds. Second, taxable bonds, a combination blend of those bonds, and straight lease transactions. Most of these incentives are real estate-based incentives. If you're going to grow your business, do a build-out to accommodate more equipment, more employees, that's where we can help you. The real estate-based tax incentives are real estate tax pilots that we can put in place. We can essentially knock down your real estate taxes to almost zero and scale it up from there. You get an exemption of a mortgage recording tax if you're purchasing a building. In Suffolk County, that is 1.05% of whatever mortgage you're going to be taking out on your property. It's a big number, and it would help your company to put that capital back in and use it. Next, very importantly, we offer a sales tax exemption. That is for all FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Everything that has to do with the build-out of your business can be sales tax exempt, from the wiring, the studs in the wall, the computers, the desks. If you're going to bring us jobs here to Suffolk County, or retain jobs here in Suffolk County if you have a choice to leave, we're going to work with you and give you these benefits. Our real estate tax abatements follow our UTEP, which is our Uniform Tax Exemption Policy. Before I got onto the board, the tax policy that we had was adopted in 1993 and readopted without change in 1999. We stayed that way for quite a long time. I pushed for almost a year for us to get a new tax policy. Noticing the serious nature of the economy and the aggressive steps that other states have taken to woo our local businesses elsewhere, on May 8th, our board will adopt a new UTEP policy that should be one of the most aggressive in our region. I've personally worked on this project for over a year. Competition is very stiff. I don't know if any of you realize how stiff it is. Just about 2 weeks ago, Governor Chris Christie got in the car and came down into our home here on Long Island to woo a business away from us. The Carolinas have sent agents in that stay here on a regular basis to pull our businesses and our jobs from this area. This is very, very serious. We intend to combat this and use the tools in our tool chest to fight this and grow our economy. Our recent successes, most of you have heard of, Canon Corporation, Melville, a commitment of 2,000 jobs. Widex, a hearing aid manufacturer from Hapog, several hundred jobs. They're, I believe, a Danish-based hearing aid manufacturer, and they're going to make their world headquarters here in Hapog. Carp Industries, a steel door manufacturer that's moving from Maspeth, Queens, to right here in Melville, 123 manufacturing jobs. They build the doors and the entranceways and exitways for the new World Trade Center going up. Very important to keep them. In closing, I must say that I hope this resonates well beyond our borders. We are Suffolk County, and we are here to do business. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. The town of Huntington is similarly committed to work with Suffolk County and the IDA and to retain jobs in this community, and that is one of our #1 priorities. I'd like to turn now to Barbara Whiting, who is a business development specialist from the US SBA. She will be talking about 504-7A, microloans, SBDC, and SCORE assistance. Barbara?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The United States Small Business Administration was basically established to enhance the small business community. You are important to the economy, you hire employees, and you create new jobs. We want to enhance your experience as an entrepreneur by providing free counseling and training, federally guaranteed loans, government contracting, and bonding insurance. Under the counseling arm, our resource partners, the Small Business Development Centers and SCORE, which stands for Service Corps of Retired Executives, provide counseling. They help you with business plans, marketing plans, all of that type of thing. And in this credit market right now, a small business, even that a business that's been in business for 10 years or more, may need a updated business plan. These counselors are very important to small business. You need to possibly use their services. The Small Business Development Centers are located across the college campuses, basically at SUNY Farmingdale and SUNY Stony Brook. You can call them for an appointment, and it's a free service. They're there to help the small business community. Under the loan arm, the small business loans, to be eligible for a loan, you need to be a for-profit business, of course, a small business, and we use the NAICS code, NAICS, as a measure of size determination. The NAICS code is basically a chart. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, and you can find it at the SBA.gov website as a link. So a small business, a for-profit business, a business that has invested money in its own business, and a business that shows that it can generate enough cash flow to repay a loan. Those are the eligibilities. SBA does not, of course, give out cash. If you need to acquire a loan, you need to approach a bank or a credit union or one of our non-bank lenders. I want to just mention a few of our loan programs. We have several. The ones I want to mention are very important. First is the microloan, which maxes at $50,000 and has basically a 6-year maturity. The average loan under that program is $13,000, so if you need a small loan, you can go to our lender for microloans, which is the Community Development Center, Community Development Corporation of Long Island, and we have a loan officer here today from CDC. Her name is Susan Razor, and Susan is right there in the back row here on my right. If you want to talk to her about a small loan, she's here today for that purpose. We have also SBA 7A loans, which max at $5 million. And basically, the proceeds may be used to purchase land or buildings, to cover new construction, the purpose of purchasing equipment and machinery, furniture and fixtures and supplies, long-term working capital, short-term working capital needs, financing against existing inventory and receivables under special conditions, refinancing of existing business indebtedness that is not already structured with reasonable terms and conditions, and it may be used for the purchase of an existing business or franchise. The next loan that I want to mention is the 504 loan, and that maxes at $5 million for small business and $5.5 million for small manufacturers. That may be used for the purchase of fixed assets. So if you want to purchase existing buildings or purchase land and land improvements, construction of new facilities, modernizing, renovating, or converting existing facilities, purchase long-term machinery such as a printing press, and refinancing of debt in connection with an expansion of a business through new or renovated facilities. The refinancing portion is temporary until the end of 2012, and it has certain specifications. You must have a balloon coming, or you must have the loan is maturing. It's coming up before the end of 2012. I have my esteemed colleague here, John Milano from the SBA, who is a lending relations specialist. He can talk to you about refinancing on a building that you own right now. And also any other of the SBA loans. Please speak to him after the meeting. The eligibility, though, for the 504 is a little bit different. We are not using the NAICS codes. The net worth should be $15 million or less, and net average income for the business, $5 million or less. This is a special program. It's special because you only need to put down 10%, and you get 90% financing. So that's very, very important. And all of your soft costs, appraisals, et cetera, is rolled into the loan. So that is basically what I wanted to talk to you about today. I want to encourage you to use SBA programs. They really, really work. And I'm going to mention a few of the successful companies that have used SBA or started with the SBA programs. They are Costco, Staples, Federal Express, AOL.com, Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream are some of the companies. Jenny Craig is one of the companies. Under Armour Sportswear is one of the companies. So these are very successful companies that you know, and they all started with SBA. The SBA also has venture capital. It has the government contracting certifications, all kinds of programs for you. It also has export loans. And I want to mention that SBA is having an export event on May 10th. We're partnering with the Long Island Forum for Technology and the U.S. Commercial Service. If you want to register for this event, you can go on the LIFT website. That's lift.org. Or you can see me after the meeting. I have some flyers. Thank you for your time and attention.
Barbara, thank you for that comprehensive view from the SBA. It really gives us some insight that I don't think some of us here have had before. I'd like to next turn to our keynote speaker, who has worked tirelessly to help small businesses over the past 15, 20 years or more, and has worked to help nonprofits. She's the president, CEO, and founder of the Long Island Development Corporation family of economic development entities, which include the Greater New York Development Company. I'm proud to introduce Roz Goldmacher.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate the title of keynote speaker, and I hope that I can offer you some valuable information to take away today. I am pleased to be here in Huntington. I'm not a Huntington resident, I must admit that. However, Doris Molina, my business development officer and the person that you met on your way in, is a Huntington resident. And although I'm not a resident, I am a devoted user of the products and services offered throughout the town of Huntington. On any given Saturday, you'll find me along with my sister and a couple of friends, either in the village. We used to eat every Saturday at Classy Coffee. Now we are trying all the other restaurants in the village. We shop in the village. My shoes all came from Soul Provisions. And I do like to go into Marsh's, but I don't fit into any of their clothes. But I do like to look at them. My jewelry comes from Antiques on Main. Sometimes I'll be at the mall, which is in Huntington Station, and Talbot's, that's where all my clothes come from. So I'm a devoted user of Huntington products and services, and proud to be so. I've also been proud to lend money to lots of businesses within the town of Huntington. Doris reminded me before that the very first loan that I ever made as an economic developer was to a company buying its first building within the town of Huntington. That was in 1978. And before most of you were even born, I'm sure, but It was a company called J. D'Addario. J. D'Addario is now the largest guitar string manufacturer in the United States, still located here on Long Island, on its, I think, fourth building since I met them. But when I met them, they were a very small family-owned company that had been making guitar strings for almost 100 years at that point, starting in Italy and then in the United States. And they had 8 employees, and they decided they wanted to buy their first building. But as any typical small business, they didn't have a lot of cash to put down on a capital project. And they were able to get financing from a bank and through the SBA 504 program, which in those days was called SBA 502, and then it became 503 and now 504, and put only 10% down, buy their building, and now they have been up to some 3,600 employees here on Long Island, a major manufacturer. I've also been privileged to work with other companies in Huntington, including several restaurants, a startup, a retailer, a floral shop, a gas station. I've worked with several manufacturers, software developers, to provide financing under various government programs, some of which you've already heard about today and some of which I'll be describing. Long Island has a lot of resources for small businesses. And many of the companies that you hear about that are prominent on Long Island, just like the FedExes of the world who started with an SBA loan, well, companies like Gold's Horseradish. We just ended the Passover season, and many of you ate horseradish that was prepared by Gold's, which is based in Hempstead. They were a recipient of an SBA loan many years ago to help them relocate from Brooklyn to Long Island. Companies like Sleepy's. Some of you sleep on Sleepy's mattresses. Well, their headquarters here on Long Island was financed with an SBA loan. The list goes on and on and on. Long Island Development Corporation is a 32-year-old economic development organization that provides loans to small businesses under various government programs, seminars, and free technical assistance. Our lending has ranged from doing SBA 504 loans to loans for various municipalities, including Suffolk County, several towns on Long Island under Housing and Urban Development, U.S. Treasury, the list goes on, but they're all government related and they're all related to small businesses because that's what we're about. In addition to financing, we provide technical assistance. We have, in fact, Antiques on Main. We helped Doris, worked with them extensively on marketing when they created their website, and we're happy to see that that's doing well. We worked with a buckwheat distributor, buckwheat grain. She imports it, works out of her home in Huntington, and distributes it, and came to us for a $2,000 loan to buy a labeling machine, and then a few years later for another loan to expand the business. And in addition to the loan, Doris worked with her and helped her get her products into several local markets, as well as several large specialty markets here on Long Island. So the technical assistance is something we do in addition to the financing. What I'd like to spend a few moments on today are a couple of financing programs that we operate that might be of assistance to some of you in the room or to your clients. The New York State Targeted Loan Fund. There's a flyer on this in the back. In fact, there's lots of great literature on the tables in the back, so please make sure to take that if you haven't already. The New York State Targeted Loan Fund is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration, and New York State. It's operated by Long Island Development. It is for targeted industries that we want to help grow on Long Island because they create lots of high-paying jobs. They can coexist with our electric rates and taxes and real estate prices. Companies like manufacturers of any kind, software and hardware developers, biomedical, pharmaceutical, high-end electronics, computer graphics, companies that are wholesale, business to business or business to government, business to nonprofit, wholesale types of businesses in those areas, or who are certified as women or minority-owned businesses by New York State. Gina talked about the importance of certification if you are a minority or woman or small business, because it can give you a leg up when it comes to getting government contracts, but it also can qualify you for some of these government loan programs. Commercial fishermen and fishing-related industries. Long Island, believe it or not, commercial fishing is a major industry here. But our commercial fishermen have been negatively impacted by pollution and regulation. So we created this low-cost loan fund to help our commercial fishermen to diversify the types of fish, to help modify their boats so that they could go out further and fish longer, and help them deal with the pollution and regulation in our waters and remain a viable industry. All of these, as well as energy-related, transportation-related, environmental-related types of companies, are eligible for the New York State Targeted Loan Fund. For you bankers in the room, this is a subordinate loan program. It takes a second lien position behind your bank loan. It goes up to $250,000, up to 20 years for capital assets, 10 years for working capital, and it's at a self-amortizing fixed rate of 5% right now. This program, just like all the government programs, is not intended to replace the borrowing from your conventional lenders, from your banks. It's intended to supplement or to do something the banks can't do for you. So like the Targeted Loan Fund, if you need $500,000 and your bank can only lend you $250,000, maybe we can lend you $250,000 in a subordinate lien position behind that bank loan. Another program that I want to mention is LizBack. There's another flyer about this one. Barbara mentioned the SBA microloan program. There are numerous micro or mini microloan programs that are out here for your benefit, some of which will do startup loans. LizBack, which is sponsored by New York State, is a mini microloan program up to $10,000 for both startup and existing businesses of all types, including retail and service businesses. It's a long-term program. Obviously, the longer you have to pay back your loans, the less you pay back each month. Makes it more affordable. It's fixed rate. I don't know about you, but I remember when the prime lending rate went up to 21%, and I know that's unbelievable to some of you, but eventually it may go back there. Right now, the rates are low, but because of that, I like fixed rate. So this is a fixed rate loan program. It's low rate, it's long-term, and it's available to startup and existing businesses up to $10,000. You have several other microloan programs available on Long Island, and those are all listed on this value-added resource list. For those of you who picked this up at a seminar last week, we updated it since then, so take another copy. This is a list of all of the resources that you've heard about today or are going to hear about, and as well as others that are here to help you small businesses, ranging from capital asset financing to working capital financing, to specialty programs under programs like HUD. You have a very active community development agency here in the town of Huntington, and if you are eligible, there may be some facade loan or grant programs and other programs available for you. Microloan programs, including the SBA microloan program available through CDC of Long Island, groups like Accion, microloans from La Fuerza Unida, LizBack, and others. Venture capital is available through some Long Island sources and other sources that work here on Long Island. And in addition, this list includes technical assistance, because money isn't the only thing. Sometimes it's not just that loan that you need, but if you get some assistance with your utility costs and abatement, or abatements on sales tax, such as with the Suffolk IDA, that's cash in your pocket because you have now saved that money. So some of those types of technical assistance are listed here, and that includes the Small Business Development Centers and Service Corps of Retired Executives, which Barbara mentioned, which provide free business plan assistance, counseling, and mentoring. Long Island Forum for Technology, BWE, that Gina talked about, Black Women Enterprises, that provides contracting assistance, certification, and one-on-one counseling. And special programs such as the utility incentives, New York State Department of Labor programs. For those of you related to or working with not-for-profits, there are resources here on Long Island for not-for-profits, including the United Way, the Long Island Community Foundation, which are two major sources of grants, and other specialty sources, including bank foundations, et cetera. Contact information is on the list, so I urge you to take a copy of it. But what you can see from this is that there are a lot of resources there to help Long Island small businesses as well as not-for-profits to start, grow, and thrive. I do want to mention that May 24th, we will be involved with a seminar in Hempstead. For for those of you interested in marketing, learning more about marketing. It's being co-sponsored by Constant Contact, and we'll talk about engagement marketing, as well as the importance of marketing, social media tools, and government contracts as a way to boost sales. So if you're interested in marketing to grow your business, I urge you to come to the seminar in Hempstead. There's a flyer. And a list of all of our upcoming seminars is there as well. They're all free. Obviously, since you braved the rain today and came out, you are interested in growing your business and helping Long Island. So I applaud you all for that, and I thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Roz, thank you. I want to recognize we also have Doug Alois, our Director of CDA, in the audience. And before we go to the question and answer period, I would just like to ask you briefly, what is your most popular loan program right now?
Well, that's a hard one to say because I really don't think there's one that's most popular. I think any of these government loan programs are popular now because our banks can't always do everything that we need them to do. Particularly because of all the financial problems we've had over the last number of years. The federal and state regulators have said to the banks, you have to fit your lending within this box. Well, if you don't fit within that box, what do you do? Well, that's where the government programs come in. They support what the banks do, either enabling the bank to do it through a guarantee from, say, an SBA 7A loan, or by bringing in another loan product like the New York State targeted in a subordinate position to complete the financing package. On the startup side, I would say that some of the microloan programs are very popular today because we have so many people looking to start businesses, either because they were laid off from their employment or because they're now into their second careers, or they're looking to increase their revenue stream. And startups are probably the most difficult type of business to finance because a lot of lenders can't lend to startups. But many of these micro lenders can, and some of the banks even have special programs designed for startups. Some of them are attached to credit cards, other small loan products. But the bottom line is do your research, and the resources are out there. You just have to do your homework, have your ducks in order to access it.
Thank you, Roz. We're going to go to our Q&A period right now, so if anyone in the audience has a question, please stand up and ask it. And since we do not have a microphone here, I will repeat the question for the benefit of our viewing audience. Thank you. Yes? Okay, how are all the resources coordinated, and how does the process start? Roz,
well, you've asked the million-dollar question. There have been numerous attempts on Long Island to coordinate all these resources. Unfortunately, the one-stop shop concept exists more in theory than in practice. I will say that we all work together, so if you come to any one of us or any of the government resources, they'll bring in the other resources that are there. So, for example, if a company comes to me and says, okay, I'm looking to buy a building, and we determine it's going to be a mix of SBA 504 and bank financing. Well, it's not just about financing that building. It may be about getting LIPA abatements, getting a free energy audit, converting to gas service onto National Grid, hiring new employees and using some of the incentives from the New York State Department of Labor, looking to the local town for incentives, maybe bringing in the Industrial Development Agency for either financing straight leasebacks so that they can get sales tax, mortgage tax abatements, real estate tax abatements, bringing in the local resources to help with business expansion. New York State has a program for manufacturers where a manufacturer can hire a consultant, the consultant helps the company become more efficient, and the company gets an automatic abatement from LIPA right off its electric costs. In addition to the benefit of becoming more efficient, and the state pays half the cost of that consultant. So if a manufacturer is the one who wants to buy a building, we'll bring in that program. So all of these resources, right here in Huntington, you have multiple resources through the Community Development Agency, through your Office of Economic Development, through the Supervisor's Office, and of course through your council people's offices. And hopefully whoever you're going to talk to will bring in all of the resources so that you, as a small business, get the benefit of everything that you're entitled to?
That's a very good question, and that's what I have a program that I've gone forward with, and it's building out the Huntington Small Business Resource and Recovery Center. So you do have one place to go. So you do have federal, you do have state, you do have county, you have private financing options. So we're slowly building it out, and that has been a problem throughout New York and pretty much throughout the country, where there is no one-stop place. Where do I go? What can I see these resources? And we're working to put that together in the town.
The other resource I just want to mention, your Chamber of Commerce. You have represented here today the Huntington Chamber of Commerce, the Melville Chamber. These are two of the most active chambers on Long Island. And if you go to the staff of either of these chambers, likely they're going to be able to help point you to all of the resources that are out there as well.
You have a question? And the answer is yes. It is being recorded today, and we will make it available on the town website, and we will allow any links, local businesses or chambers of commerce to use the content. Yes, sir, with the yellow tie.
Everyone, if you started your business yesterday, you can register, not certification, to do business with the local municipalities, the state, and the federal government as a vendor, a supplier, a contractor, or a consultant. And you don't have to be in business at least a year. Now, if you're seeking certification as a woman-owned business or a minority-owned business, then there's a different criteria. And let's talk about, since you brought up certification, I want to go back to it because there's a couple other great certifications. Barbara's here from the SBA, and it's been over 10 years in the working where now the federal government has the first ever women's contracting rule, which is a women's certification for women business owners of all races. But any business that's owned, operated, and directed by a woman, at least 51%, can now be certified by the federal government and access goals on contracting opportunities with I want to say all the federal agencies, but with at least 86 different federal agencies. And if you go to the US SBA's website and look up Women's Contracting Rule, that information is there. That program's not quite a year old. So you really have to, do your homework or give me a call. You can reach me at the BWE office. That phone number is 516-485-5900. You can visit the BWE website, which is www.blackwomenenterprises.org. BWE offers entrepreneurial support programs, not only here at Dix Hills, at the Half Hollow Hills Community Library every first Thursday of the month, Hempstead Public Library every second Thursday of the month, and we're out at Riverhead Town Hall about every other month or so, and we're going to be back out at Riverhead on June 1st. We'll be at Dix Hills this coming Thursday, and we'll be at Hempstead Public Library next Thursday. And I encourage all of you to come, learn some new resources, and it's free. You can register online. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, can I just clarify?
Please.
So register as a business?
Absolutely.
You can register.
So as your business is maturing for that year, you're now already in the procurement stream to access your bids, your RFPs, or whatever you need. Barbara mentioned NIAC codes, North America Industry Codes. Does everyone know what those are? Okay, that's very important. Like, for example, my family business is an engineering and architectural support firm. Our NIAC codes are 8711 and 8712. 8711 is for engineering services, 8712 is architectural. But we must list about 35 to 40 different NIAC codes. Why is that? Because how else are we going to identify drafting, design support, layouts, surveying of existing conditions? There's so much more to those industries. So, for example, what industry are you in, please? Okay, you're in organizational development. I don't happen to know the codes for your business, but I'm sure there's so many other segments and support services that you offer. So you wouldn't select one code. And that's something everyone in this office, in this room today, this forum today can do. Go back, check your NIAC codes, and see how you're registered. See how people are looking at your business and your profile and what services you offer, and increase them. Add on some more. So hopefully you'll come up with more bid opportunities and more RFPs.
Thank you, Gina. Next question, please. Yes, the gentleman in the back.
Given that all loans are different,
Your question is, given that all the loans are different, is there a difference between the lending approval times?
yeah, I mean, is there,
Is there an average time that the loan gets approved from when you put in your application? Okay, that's the question.
All right, I can answer for the bank. Once we have a complete package of all the financial documentation, a completed application, generally an initial approval can be getting within anywhere from a day to a week. The whole process of when you can close and get your money, if you're buying a building, that's going to take longer versus if you're just looking for a line of credit. But an initial approval is fairly quick.
What about from the agencies?
For the SBA, we receive your loan proposal from the bank after they've approved it, subject to the SBA guarantee approval. And then we approve it, and we don't take very long to do that. The bank approves it first.
Doug Eloise? Yes. The question is, what are the common mistakes that some of the applicants make while applying for a loan?
Not following instructions, not responding to the specific request. Typically, if I'm talking to a business about a loan, the first thing I want to see, if they're an existing business, I say, give me your last 3 years' federal tax returns on the company and a personal financial statement on the owners. And that lets me look at the credit piece and see if there's a shot, because I don't want to waste someone's time with an application if they're not going to be eligible. And I can't tell you the number of times that I get back 1 year's federal tax return, or maybe I get 1 page of the tax return, or I don't get it at all. So responding to the specific instructions of an application or a request, that's one of the biggest mistakes and one of the easiest things to correct. So I think you have to be responsive to what that lender is asking for. The other mistake is not being open and honest about your situation, particularly with the government loans. We understand that people may not have stellar credit. You wouldn't be coming to the government loan programs. If you could walk into your bank and get everything you need on terms you can afford, you don't need any of us. And especially with these economic times, there may be issues with your credit, et cetera. We understand that. We're willing to work with it. And for example, in the case of our loan programs, if someone comes to me and has a real big problem with their credit, if it was a non-recurring type of thing that caused it, like a divorce, a major medical problem, then I have no problem with that. If they're just a deadbeat, I have a problem with that. But if they don't tell me up front about these things, I don't like being surprised when I go through an application and then pull a credit report and find out there are all kinds of problems. When you have issues like that, be open and above board up front and tell the lender what the issues are so that they're not surprised along the way.
If I can add to that, please, and first understand, I'm not a lender, but I think some common errors that small businesses make when they go to apply for funding and they get denied is they ask for too much money. The amounts are so high in the sky. It's just unrealistic, and there's no true payback ability for that. The other thing that happens is sometimes the small business owner doesn't understand their financial statements. If you're going to hand over a document to a lender and you want them to understand it, you should understand it. You should know what every line item means and what represents on your financial statements. And if you don't understand those statements, your accountant should explain them to you. And if your accountant can't explain them to you, fire him or her and hire a new one that can, so that you understand your business. Does that make sense? And then most importantly, your financial projections, your payback ability, your cash flow analysis. If you're going to ask to borrow money, you should understand how you're going to generate these sales to pay it back. And you should be able to express that to the lender. Does that make sense?
Following up on that, if you walk into a lender, and when the lender says to you, how much money do you want to borrow? And your response is, how much will you lend me? Doesn't work. That shows that you're not prepared. To reiterate what Gina was saying, you really need to be prepared. Understand your financials, have your business plan or documents in order so that you can walk into a lender knowing this is what I need it for, this is what justifies you lending it to me, this is how I'm going to pay it back, and if I can't pay it back, this is how you're going to recover.
And that's exactly what I was explaining before. When you go into a bank for financing, know your business, know your needs, know your repayment abilities, because Roz and Gina summed up everything that I was going to say. Don't ask for something that you can't afford or something that's unrealistic. If you don't know the amount that you need or that you would qualify for, don't come in, like Roz said, and how much will you give me, but have a good conversation with your banker as to, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, these are my financials, work with me to find an amount that works for both what I need to get and what I can afford and what the bank is willing to give me.
Would you like to say something?
Yes, yeah. SBA has put together 2 new websites for government contracting. One of them is Subnet, and it's http:// the word web, web.gov/subnet. This is a place where you can find subcontracting opportunities for small business. If you need to have me repeat that, did everyone get that? Do you need it? Okay. We have also put together what's called a supplier connection. And this is where you can go online and find opportunities with large corporations. That website is www.supplier-connection.net. And some of the companies involved are Facebook, AT&T, IBM, Pfizer, UPS, Caterpillar, like that. I also want to mention you can go online and self-certify for women in the government contracting program. Women and veterans can self-certify for set-aside contracts. That website is www.sba.gov/WOSB for the women's program. So that's the additional information. Of course, most of you have heard of the fedbizops.gov. FBO.gov is that website, and that's also for government contracting opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Nick? Yes.
In a case like that, first of all, when a lender looks at a company to determine its cash flow and whether it can pay back proposed debt, it's looking not just at the net profits before taxes, it's looking at non-cash items such as depreciation, it's looking at non-recurring items. So it's looking at all those things that can make up that cash flow to help repay the proposed debt. If the company can't just walk into its bank and get an additional amount on its line of credit or a term loan, then the next thing I would ask for is an SBA 7A loan, either from the bank or, if the bank can't do it, from one of the non-bank lenders. What the 7A loan does is enables the lender to look a little more liberally at the credit, so that if, say, the cash flow isn't 3-to-1 as required by that lender, but it's only 1-to-1, well, maybe the SBA guarantee will now enable the lender to make that loan, because they have a guarantee of part of the loan. That's, in effect, it lessens their risk. It also helps them to categorize the loan in a different way than they otherwise might have to on their books for the regulators. So the SBA 7A loan product, I think, is probably the first step in a case like that. 7A typically is a term loan. You can get a line of credit guaranteed by an SBA 7A loan. I'm not aware of any real active banks that are active with the line of credit program here on Long Island. But on the term side, it sounds like what you're describing is a need to have a bunch of money sitting there for these opportunities. And it would be great if it could be done on a line of credit basis, so you're only paying interest and drawing down as you need the money. But the alternative, the SBA 7A term loan, I think is the way to go. Now, having said that, if you're talking about small sums, maybe up to $50,000, that's a whole different category. Then you're talking an SBA microloan program or several of the microlenders combined together. But if you're talking $100,000, $200,000, $400,000, $500,000, now you're talking an SBA 7A loan.
There seems to be, and this was years ago, it's the same
I can't speak to that particularly, but frankly, that's probably one of the reasons that the 7A program exists, in order to meet that gap. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know, speaking very generally, but it goes back to what I said before. We're going to look at the three most important attributes. So we're going to look at your particular business or your industry. Is the bank more willing to write a $10 million loan than a $500,000 loan? I don't know. It's going to depend on that particular business. But yeah, I mean, I think what Roz was saying in terms of the programs that are available to bridge that gap is exactly why it's there, to allow people to get the financing they need that they may not be able to get through traditional means.
Can I throw in something else? I know we have bankers, I know you have SBA, but what you said specifically is if there's no one up here that can answer or supply those needs, then you go to non-traditional funding resources like Neil Seiden and asset enhancements and factors. Today's factors isn't like your grandpa's factor, you know what I mean? It's much more advantageous to business, it's much more profitable, they'll factor a small portion of it, and you're not gonna lose your shirt in the process. And they really work well with you. And those are alternatives. I mean, small business has to be very creative nowadays in this economy. So the things that maybe aren't in the textbook or that you would do traditionally, you have to take a look at. You have to explore it.
That would include even things, it's a good point that you mentioned, Gina, the factoring, accounts receivable financing. Even, if you take credit cards, if you're a retail establishment or any other type that takes credit cards, well, there are organizations out there that will use your credit card receipts and lend you against that. So you really do have to be creative and look at these alternative sources depending on the type of business and your revenue.
Well, I want to thank our panelists for this wealth of information that they've provided us with. And that will conclude our Show Me the Money program from the Huntington Small Business Resource and Recovery Center. And I want to thank you all for coming.